Opa! Hope everyone's doing well today. One last second mic check, and I think we're good. I sound okay? I hope I sound okay. I've been accused of far worse. Hopefully, today sound okay. Perfect. Today on MyLiveChef, we are doing something a little out of the ordinary. We're doing pub food. Now, there were a couple of typos in the recipe card because I was frantically typing them up. We have some ingredients that are a little, I don't know, kind of rare. I don't know if anyone ever buys this stuff. It's called beer. Yeah. I don't know what the stuff is like. I don't know. Can't remember the last time I drank one of these. I think it was on a dare of some sort. But we have beer is definitely on the menu today. Any beer will work. Any lager will work. Club soda will work. This is just going to be one ingredient to help the onion ring batter froth up. Yeah, real Farina. I know. One of my friends, childhood friend, she decided that drinking as much beer as she did was probably bad for her waistline. It kind of was. So she switched to a lower calorie beer, and this is, the last time I had one of these was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I didn't mind them. I actually used to be a beer snob, and I did not mind it all that much. But it depends what you're looking for. Like back in the days, I'd go for like a Newcastle or a Guinness or something. If I wanted a sandwich in a mug, big mug, maybe a Stein. But I need to very quickly adjust this one camera because it's a little close. So I'm going to turn off the camera just so nobody gets. Perfect. We should be back. Yeah, well, before the advent of microbreweries on every street corner, I actually was quite the beer snob, and I didn't know this, but somebody from the local gaming community owned a gastropub, and they had a beer passport. So one day I popped in, and I looked at the passport and I went, had. There were like 3 beers out of 100 that he had on tap or in his coolers that I hadn't had before. And I started rethinking my life choices. I'd sampled a lot of beers. I was never a hardcore lush. But anyways, we're not here to talk about my liver. We're here to talk about food. And the first thing today, we're going to do, I quickly need to put together a little batch of something like a Creole seasoning. Any sort of seasoning salt will work. Make sure I'm not at a Batman angle here. I know I'm super professional today. We need some sort of a seasoning salt, and this is going to be used either with, most of the breading is going to involve usually 1 layer of flour and then some sort of an egg wash, and then we're going to have some sort of breadcrumbs, like Italian herb breadcrumbs. Italian seasoned breadcrumbs is usually how it's sold in supermarkets. Or Panko flakes, which is what we're using today. We're going to have to run these through the food processor because the flakes themselves are a little big, but this makes for a crunchier seasoning. Either breading will work. But the breadcrumbs and the Panko seasoning, or the Panko flakes, they need a bit of a kick to them. So we're going to have a really, really basic melange here, the spice melange. I'm assuming everyone gets the reference. We're going to need 2 tablespoons, 2.5 of paprika. going to do this the old-fashioned way, and I'm going to replace the tablespoons with teaspoons because I don't need a whole lot of this today. You can replace the word tablespoon with part, and you can please forgive and ignore all of the typos because there's a whole lot of them. I'm going to correct those soon. 2 parts of garlic powder, also known as garlic powder, for those of us that can spell. Normally we'd have 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Now, I'm dangerously low on onion powder. I normally use dehydrated onions that I grind up in a mortar and pestle, because who doesn't, right? This onion salt already has salt in it, so I'm using 1 teaspoon of that and just a little more salt. That should be roughly the same amount. All of this gets seasoned to taste, but when you dip your finger in this, it's going to be really, really flavorful because it's just going to be one big mixture of nothing but spice. You should have an idea if it's too salty, too peppery, too something. I'm dangerously out of Greek oregano, so I'm using the boring Italian style. Either one works. You can use really parsley or thyme for this step. Then I need a couple of peppers, cayenne and black pepper. Now the funny thing is I happen to have Cajun seasoning. Now yes, Cajun and Creole are different. I know. But I'm going to mix these up and do the side-by-each comparison. And you should have some of your own spice mixes lying around anyways. Let's a little bit of black pepper. I do have an Italiano seasoning. The recipe's on the blog. This stuff's invaluable. I use it. If I'm not using just straight oregano, I go for the Italian seasoning. I should call it Greek seasoning, but it's more traditional Italian, even though they stole it from the Greeks. I'm a little biased. Maybe that's not accurate. Oh, 1 second, I got a message. Greek oregano is different. It's a lot spicier. It's a lot hotter, and it makes for a better tea if you're into oregano tea. And if anybody's ever in the Winnipeg area, come on by for some Greek mountain tea. I have a bunch, and it's actually called mountain tea, also known as ironwort. But I'm hotter. Why, thank you, Shock. Yeah, and here I thought that my family, being, Hick villagers from the Hick village, just didn't have a creative name for mountain tea. Apparently that's what it actually is called. Yeah. So I can whisk this together. I can just flip it around in the bowl. All roads lead to Athens. I gotta stop saying Rome. I have Italian friends. We tease each other mercilessly. Remember one of the first times I was in line at the local bar. Actually, the bar used to be across the street from me. And I was there with my cousin Nick from Greece. Yes, I have a Greek cousin, Nick. Go figure, I'm Greek. And the guys in front of us in line were Turkish. And I thought, oh, good Lord, a fight's going to break out. Now, we all laughed about it, so it was funny. I think that was the first time I actually met in Canada somebody that was from Turkey. Not just of descent, but like full on from Turkey, full accent, full everything. Yeah, he wasn't the two-headed monster that they were described as. It was really weird. He looked rather human. It was shocking. For anyone that doesn't know, yes, I'm kidding. You should know by now. I'm going to side by each test these spices, though, and then I'm going to get right into asking a few questions from the crowd at home. Okay, don't double dip. We have the generic stuff. Cajunnerific. This one has more cayenne pepper, a significant amount more of cayenne pepper. This one, the heat builds up and it lingers better, but I do like the initial hit of cayenne pepper. So I'm going to add a little more to this. If your palate isn't... I don't even know how to say this without sounding like a jackass. If your palate isn't trained, if you haven't sat around tasting different things and mentally making associations and trying to remember the last time you had something similar and what it went well with all of the beer or scotch or wine pairing tasting notes, this is going to sound really pretentious. All of the previous stuff sounds super pretentious too, but it is actually a useful skill. It is worth spending a few minutes just building up those flavor profiles and having an idea of what goes well with something else and maybe what a substitute for something else is. When in doubt, just stick with salt, pepper, garlic, and you're good. I'm learning English. It's quite all right if last time you were a little high. Oh, speaking of which, something arrived by Canada Post this morning. I'll give you a hint what it is. A lot of it was green. So, I do believe, and I need to have a quick chat with someone about this, I do believe next Thursday we're going to be making the herbed chocolate brownies. I'm going to put that in the chat just so it's really obvious. The herbed chocolate brownies. Legal to do here, legal in California, legal in most places in the States. As long as I don't mention, apparently as long as I don't mention anything about the potentially psychoactive ingredients, Twitch has no problem. They didn't say no, they didn't say yes, they said use my best judgment, when in doubt don't. But the guidelines and everything else suggest that there's nothing wrong with baking herbs, infusing it with butter, and then making brownies, as long as I don't discuss what it's for. I can go over some math that might be related to what's baking in the oven. But I did receive approximately 7 natural oregano. Yeah, if anyone has a recipe for making home edibles, especially brownies, send them my way, please. I'm learning English. I would love it if you sent me your recipe. Because I'm going to try a small batch with what I have first, and then I'm going to do the whole process, probably with some pre-recorded footage, for I believe next week. So in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to need to consume like 14 grams of something. Herbed chocolate. So anywho, I'm going to try this again. Oh, that's nice. The flavor doesn't just come out swinging. It comes out gently. It's sort of seductive. It just wanders up and says, "Hey, Vlahos, how you doing? Did you do something with your hair? Get some sleep. Your eyes are... there's something about you. You just look better today." Bam! That's how it sort of sneaks up on me. That bam might have been loud, but this is good stuff. So I'm going to throw that in the container after the stream, and away we go. Question for the stream. We have 2 basic recipes to do today. I can add more. I want to do onion rings, and I want to do chicken tenders, chicken fingers, whatever you want to call them. It's all going to be fried. I can add more of a restaurant style extra crispy French fry to that because I have extra potatoes that I need to use up. So we can take our time and go through the 2 recipes, or I can rush a little bit and go for the 3. I'm not going to do Hot Pockets. I did tamales on the keto stream a while ago, a few months ago, I think. January? December or January. Yeah, it was Christmas tamales. I could do a Hot Pocket. I don't know of a good way to ask for polls on the Discord. Maybe I'm just, I need to just read the manual. RTFM, right? But if somebody has any recommendations or requests or anything for what to do in future streams, either here or on my channel, please let me know. I'm all ears, especially this one. It sticks out. Yeah, RTFM is right. Hey, Papa Shock. I usually do RTFM. Actually, I'm not the stereotype male buffoon. I usually do read the stuff. I also have learned that web-based things, the manuals are woefully out of date from day one. It's because whenever updates are made, the software engineers and developers just don't leave design notes, or they don't get implemented into the new page. Twitch is surprisingly good for that. Speaking of which. Yeah. So, without further ado, I'm going to get started with the onions. You can use basically any onion you want. You can use a Spanish onion, a big white onion, a big yellow onion, a big red onion, whatever onion tickles your fancy. I am going to need a food processor out at some point, so I'm going to just get this ready now. And here's the obligatory complaint about I don't have enough kitchen space. So if somebody wants to start a GoFundMe to get me a commercial kitchen, that would be wicked awesome and greatly appreciated. And again, for the long-term viewers, I actually get a bit of a kick out of working with a 2x2 foot cooking area, because if I can do this stuff with demonstrating no real skill, with basic ingredients, with no gadgets, with minimal working area, and create Michelin star quality food, forget about the presentation, you can too. It really is about just good, wholesome, basic ingredients, and having a straightforward recipe that doesn't require you to have ninja-like knife skills or obscure cooking gadgets like a sous vide, which actually is becoming more mainstream, and I'll eventually get one. But it's going to be a heck of a long time before I do it on stream. Oh, is there a joke that I missed? Oh, like AC/DC Highway to Hell? Okay, this is going to be the most dangerous cut of the day. The first of 3. I'm using the old claw technique. I'm holding the onion in place. I'm using my sharp knife, and what I want to do is trim the bottom chunk of the onion away. I'm going to peel away this outer layer and discard it. Keep an eye out for the properties of this outer layer, this outer skin, because if we see that on the inner layers with if we see a membrane like that on the inner layers, we need to peel it off. You can save this piece of onion for stock later, for frying, for doing something. Depending on the shape of the onion, What I want to do is when I get to the real, it's gross. When I get to cutting the middle part of the onion, I want to be cutting 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick rings, so about there. And I don't want to be trimming off, like if we had an onion that was more ball shaped, I don't want to be cutting off tiny little strips. I want big rings, right? Ah, shock. Well, have fun at your work. It is a 4-letter word. Yeah, we need to get more subs. We need to get lots more subs for Gothersize. So from here, again, I'm going to let the knife do all the work. I've got my claw. I'm holding the onion in place. This is going to be wobbly, and again, this is going to be one of the more dangerous cuts. Take your time, get the knife in place, let the knife do all the work. Something between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. Let the knife do all the work. The third cut's going to be the trickiest one. Again, once you get the knife cutting in a little bit, don't rush it. Just take your time. Let the knife do all the work. If your knife is having a hard time cutting through an onion, you really need to sharpen your knife. I'm going to wrap this up in some cling wrap and put it in the fridge for now. Again, if I was doing a few batches of onion rings, I'd just be trimming off the root and the stem, and I'd be saving the rest of the onion for something else, like a stock for a soup, frying it up somewhere else. And it's not a bad idea to keep these extra pieces of onion in a separate bowl, have a separate bowl ready. And you'll find out why in just a few seconds. Clang! As we, I want to make sure this is on screen. Collect my channel points because we all need 150 million. Okay. I want to slowly break apart the onion into the rings without ripping this apart. Now, sometimes you get this inner geometry happening, which is less than ideal. And I want these rings to be intact, so I'm not forcing anything. Very gently prying the onion rings apart. It's not a race. You should be able to, like this by itself I could fry, but I think it's too big, and you can clearly see that there's 2 rings in here. But I don't want to break anything. I need to be gentle. Okay. And now, take a quick look and check to see if there's any of that inner membrane. Because if there is, the onion rings won't stick to the batter. Like, I could fry this up, or I can just put it off to the side and use it somewhere else. Like in a, again, like a soup or a stock or something else. Aha, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to show you. I love it when a plan comes together. Don't go out of your way to rip apart the inner rings. But if you see that membrane, just pry it off with your nail. If you need a paring knife or something to get in at it, go ahead. Just always be careful when dealing with knives. And once these rings are battered, all of this goes a long way. I mean, the recipe really has less to do with the onion than it does with the batter. This end piece might have been a little thick. No one's going to complain. Not too much anyways. And if they do, just kick them out of your bar. It's that easy. The more exclusive you make your establishment, the more people will pay to attend, right? But I do think that abusing your regulars is not an ideal way to run a business. And before I get everyone into trouble, I'm going to stop that train of thought right there. This is going to be good enough for today. Of course, I could do something with these pieces. I'm just going to throw all of this in a bowl and put it into my fridge for a while. I do like to cover onions in water before I put them in the fridge. It just makes them a little more mellow. I don't mind the sharp biting onions, but my partner in crime is not a fan of it. And yeah, and that's that. I want to make sure that she gets to enjoy some of the food too. It's like a dangerous way to balance things. Okay, so here we have our onions. Any questions so far? Oh, I'm learning English. If you ever make it to Winnipeg, please please let me know. I'm in Winnipeg. Everyone's welcome to come down. If you want a guest cook in the kitchen, you're welcome to come down. Love a good membrane in the morning. That's good. And seeing the membrane, yeah. What else did I miss? Yes. So there's a few things with cutting onions. If you're finding your eyes are watering, cutting them on your board with some running water helps keep all those sulfides away in that. I keep forgetting the name of the chemical. When you cut into the membrane wall of onions, it releases some stuff, and that stuff is what makes our eyeballs water. So if you're doing it under running water or underwater, if you're that cool with scuba gear, you can do it in, you can just rinse that stuff away. So your eyes are less likely to water. Yeah, so if you soak it in water, it becomes more mild. If you just leave them out with the membranes broken, more of that those sulfites will, I think they're sulfites, will come out. And just to incorporate more in outside of the structure. Like if you pick up an onion and hold it by your face, your eyes aren't going to water. Cut an onion in half, put it by your face. You know, you're tear gassing yourself. Okay. Back to this. So we have our onion. I need a half cup of Panko flakes. I'm going to quickly get my food processor. I promise we'll get to the beer very soon. I know everyone's eager to see me open a beer. One of the streams where I mod the running joke is that it's always shot o'clock. The reality is I had something like 7 ounces of alcohol last year. 7. That's not an exaggeration. Plus whatever was in like my vanilla extract or a bit of vodka to lower the freezing point of my ice creams. Or same with bourbon. Yeah, I'm definitely not the hardcore lush that I probably should be. Why am I using grams in America? Because I'm not in America. you want me to use ounces instead? Would that make things happier? In general, no, Americans use pounds and ounces in general. It is a sneaky way to force people to do math. What actually happens... Uh-oh. Did I cut through the zippy? No, I didn't. Good. Metric didn't really become a thing here till the late 70s, and then early 80s is when it became a lot more mainstream. I still think of people in feet and inches and people's weight in pounds. I'm good with everything else being in metric. Distance, I still flip between miles and kilometers for distance. I know what a quarter mile is. No idea where my speeding tickets came from, but yeah, I rarely say that's about 100 meters. I'll say that's like a football field. It's closer to 300 feet. I'm pretty sure the next generation in Canada is going to be using metric for everything. And I don't know... Yeah, I'm learning English. It's weird. I've seen a lot of recipes, like American recipes, where they will flip from imperial volume measurements to using metric mass measurements. It's always more precise to measure things by mass than volume. And especially if you're doing pastries or something where the recipes are more precise, using volumes or mass, especially using metric, is a lot more precise. Okay, I have 1/2 cup of Panko Flakes. Now these are boring and dry and unseasoned, so to this I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of this spice. Is 1 tablespoon too much? No, but it's close. It's close to too much. Oh, here's the other question for the day. Do you guys want me to go over the keto substitutes if somebody wants to do this stuff low carb? Because you can do a very, very keto-friendly onion ring and chicken tender. Really, the only difference is instead of wheat flour, you use almond flour for the first dredging and the chicken tendies. And for this, instead of using Panko flakes, you use aged cheddar cheese and pork rinds. Oh yeah, pork rinds. Kriana, that was a yes please for the keto versions. Okay, in that case I will definitely do that. Well, the price for 20 grams, depending on... I did just go over it. I kind of want to make some for myself. Oh, the difference between Panko flakes and breadcrumbs. Okay, you know what? We'll just look over the ingredients. Wheat flour, sugar, yeast, and salt. What goes in bread? Wheat flour, yeast, salt, a little bit of sugar. You get green stuff for €1 a gram? Really? Wow. So Panko flakes, they are much more coarse. They're bigger granules here. And normally breadcrumbs are, well, you know what breadcrumbs are like. You can run them through a sifter. But these Panko flakes are bigger and a touch sweeter. Otherwise, it's basically ground up bigger chunks of cracker, basically. I have to really quickly do the egg conversion on that. I'm curious. That seems really cheap. That seems really, really cheap. Because up here from a dispensary, it's about $2.20. What's the conversion? €2.30. Yeah. I'm going to turn the microphone off for just a minute while I pulse this up. Remember how I said I would live by the tenets of Rick Astley and never lie about stuff that I did wrong or stupid in the kitchen? What I forgot, and this was totally off screen, but I really want to draw attention to it because it's kind of hilarious at my expense. I forgot the blade attachment in my food processor, and I thought, why is nothing happening? It's loud. I know something's turning. Wait, nothing's turning. What the heck? So anywho, I'm gonna mute the the stream again for just a few seconds. And that's it. There's our half cup of... no, normally I have the blade attachment and the Wessel. Was I distracted by the chat of the herb? Yeah, maybe. But I'm supposed to be the professional here. I'm not supposed to get distracted by things like recreational plants. There's a paradox with Rick Astley. What? And the funny thing is, I'm really not overly shy. I don't take compliments well, and when I do something really stupid, that's when I'll blush. When I do something stupid, like I don't care, discussing super personal details. But yeah, there's some things where I'll blush, and this is this is one of them. I thought it was funny. Okay, so for the batter, what I'm going to need. And here's where it gets super, super complicated. I need 1 cup of flour, or I can do 50-50 wheat and rice flour. Apparently rice flour gives a better result. I wouldn't know. I've never... I want to make sure I'm not lying. I might have bought it to do some cooking for my friend who's got celiac disease. That would have been like 8 or 10 years ago, though. I don't remember, other than for Mr. Dave, anytime I would have bought rice flour. I need 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Oh. No, that would be never move you up. But give you up is different than moving someone. It's a little nuance in the language. I wouldn't call it a paradox. Oh, yes. Salting anything will draw the moisture out because of the osmotic pressure. Ooh, big word. You might be able to use that on Words on Stream one day. The osmotic pressure between the cellular walls. The salt tries to balance everything out, and it will draw moisture out just to balance everything. So it tries to push itself in and draw moisture out while it's doing that. Mars is at home, but Mars is not here. I'm in Winnipeg, streaming on MyLiveTube, like magic, and Mars is that way. 30-hour drive. So vinyl resting place, yes. The best way to draw the moisture out. Oh, because cucumbers themselves have a lot of moisture, and if you shred up cucumbers, you're going to be adding a lot of water to your dressing, and you don't want to add water to. In general, you don't want to add any water to your recipes. You only, in general, like you're better off adding a broth or some sort of a sauce or a stock instead of water. You rarely add water to a recipe unless you're just thinning something out or you're looking for the properties of the water, like to dissolve the proteins in dough. But there aren't a whole lot of recipes where I will intentionally add water other than to making bread. And one of the things that I highly recommend for cucumbers if you're making a dressing, especially for tzatziki, and I know this well because I've done it a zillion times, I actually have a masticating juicer, which I use for shredding my cucumber for making tzatziki. And it works brilliantly. And it squeezes every last little bit of moisture out of the cucumber. And then I take that cucumber juice and I drink it separately because it's delicious. But the pulp that comes out the other end is perfectly shredded cucumber with no liquid. Yeah, it's kind of genius. I hope I answered the question. Dips. Oh, and that was the other question. I don't know which stream I'm going to do my gyro on. I did it on mine last year. Maybe I'll do it here next month. And I'll show, there will be some video wizardry going on, but I'll show you how to make your own yogurt, to make your own tzatziki, and I'll do that off. I'll record that in advance. And then how to make your own gyro meat that you build in your oven. So you have your Donair style vertical spit where you build your own meat to shave off. And then the pitas, and then away we go. It sounds really involved. It's actually trivial to make, and the final result is it's off the hook. It's really, really, really impressive, and it's incredibly easy to make. Like it's damn near idiot proof. Damn near idiot proof. And the yogurt recipe is phenomenal, and I highly recommend that you make your own batch of yogurt once a month. And the tzatziki sauce you can make as spicy, as hot, as garlicky, as tart as you want. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds good, it's delicious, and it's so incredibly easy to make. And it's not even labor intensive, it's just the whole process takes days. Most of that is like yogurt cultures, like the bacteria, getting all ornery with milk in your slow cooker. There's very little interactive time with it. It just takes, the whole process takes a few days. In the normal batter, you can add some fine cornmeal, or you can add some panko flakes for some extra crunch. I think I'm going to put just a little bit of panko flakes in here because I didn't run out and buy cornmeal. I could add some. Yeah, I'm going to add some panko flakes. That's the way to go. What I don't want to do today is feel like I'm rushing to do 3 or 4 recipes. I think I'd rather just take my time and chat more and do 2 in painstaking detail, because that way if somebody else has a question, they can ask. While I'm reassembling my Blendetron, does anyone have any questions? And which Candace? And which country of Candace are you talking about? I know a few Candaces. We're adding a 1/4 cup of more panko flakes. Want to quickly mute. Close enough. Clang. What? Whoa. Vinyl resting place. For me personally, the one fruit, the one vegetable that I find is absolutely mandatory to salt the heck out of is eggplant, because eggplants are inherently bitter. And if you soak eggplant in very, very salty brine for at least half an hour, give it an hour or two, you get rid of all the bitterness. You get rid of all the bitterness, and that's why my moussaka is, I hate bragging, but it's really, really freaking good. It's really freaking good. The recipe is damn near idiot proof. Even I can make it. DJ Nuvo, who normally hated eggplant, who's always hated eggplant, she tried some of my moussaka for the first time last year, and she just lost it. She's like, oh my god, this is delicious. Why have I never had this before? And then she remembered, oh right, because people didn't go out of their way to make it less bitter. I also usually peel off half of the skin, because the skin adds a little bit of a weird texture, and there's a lot of flavor there that some people might find a little off-putting. Try cucumber salad dressing with rice vinegar. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah. I've seen the combination. It's fantastic. Especially if you want to keep the crunchiness, you want to draw the moisture out and have it replaced with the vinegar to like quickly pickle it. That's one of the schools of thought on it. So you can leave that salad alone and it still stays crunchy after a while. If it's all watery, after you cut it, it's not going to be nearly as crunchy. But that combination is fantastic. It's a great recipe. And a little bit of baking powder. We need 1 teaspoon. If I had it, I would also add some bacon powder. I'm just going to whisk this together, nice and easy. And here, my friends, is where the magic and the boozing begins to happen. La! That's got ASMR written all over it, right? Depending on the size of your can or bottle, whatever your vessel is for your beer, you're going to want to add, slowly, you're going to want to add something but around 2/3, 3/4. And it's going to fizz up, and that's exactly what you want. But what we're looking for is the consistency of like a pancake batter. You can use club soda. I guess you could use 7-Up if you don't mind the extra sugar. I mean, pub food isn't exactly the healthiest. It's all sorts of comfort food. At the end of the day, it's deep fried starch, right? So I mean, we're not going to pretend that it's anywhere near healthy. Yeah, I'm learning English. I used to feel the same way about bottles with corks, and that I would only use a bottle that was corked, not capped. And then the global cork shortage happened, and it was hard to find a bottle of wine that wasn't capped with a screw cap. It also means that you don't need to have a bottle opener with you. You can just like twist off that cap and start chugging away, if that's your thing. I'm looking to whisk this up so it's the consistency of a thick pancake batter. Again, it's usually about 3/4 of the can or the bottle. I do miss the smell of beer. It's a nice smell. Not enough for me to dive into this can. And I do need this to be smooth, so I think I do have some clumps in here. I can spend half an hour whisking this up, or I could just add some more of this beer. This is getting borderline too thin, so I'm just going to stop with the beer there. Yeah, that's about 80% of the can. See if we have any questions. Bottle of wine in a can? No. I don't think so. We have bags of wine and, well, Chateau cardboard, which is wine in a box. That's actually a bag. Yeah. Chateau cardboard, one of my personal favorites. And right about now I'm going to add about a teaspoon, not a tablespoon, but just a teaspoon of the old Creole Seasoning. As much as I want to add a full tablespoon. I'm just going to add a heaping teaspoon. Ain't no one here to stop me. I'm all loco. It's going to go a long way. Ooh, pancake batterific. In the meantime, I'm going to get some things ready over here. There's a one dredging station. This is going over here. This is going over here. Onion rings. I have my coffee grinder. Clang. Today I'm going to make sure that I'm using my splatter guard. As much as I don't mind getting boiling hot oil all over my stovetop, the cleanup is a bit of a mess. It's a bit annoying. I think that's enough oil. I'll show you the pan and what's happening there in a few minutes. Don't worry about it for now. I'm going to get a large sheet, a baking sheet, and I'm going to start making my onions. Okay, so what we have right now is we have our onions cut into the rings, we have our batter, and we have our dried stuff over here. We're ready to start assembling the onions. What I'm going to do is preheat the oil to about 365, 370 Fahrenheit. It's critical, it's absolutely critical that the oil be at a high enough temperature, and that it helps a lot if you use a cast iron pan or some sort of a vessel, or enough oil so that when you drop in a few onion rings at a time, you're not dropping the temperature too much. The high temperature will make the exterior stay nice and crispy and not get super oily. And that's the real secret to deep frying food. High temperature, high-ish temperature, and it has to stay at that high temperature. That's why you don't make a giant batch of fries unless you have a giant container of oil. Because if you drop the temperature too much, that's when the fries or the chicken fingers or whatever you're frying soak up more oil than you want. I'll check to see if there's any questions before I get the fingers all drunk. All drunk with beer. I'm missing something, but that's fine. Okay, any questions before I start getting? I think that might be a little too precise. I think a lot of that has to do with your tolerance and yeah, just your tolerance to booze. Some people get completely wasted after one or two drinks. Some people have to polish off a bottle or three of wine or you know, like 13 to 26 shots of the hard stuff to get anything happening. I'm not condoning or condemning either. You do you as long as it's safe. Okay, so these onion rings, these things are dry. These things don't need to be towel dried. If I thought they were wet, I would take a paper towel and I would just gently blot them dry, but these things are dry as it is. So from here on, I do everything with the tongs. This should be whisked a little more smooth. I'm okay with it. So from here on, everything is done with the tongs. We're going to do 3-ish of these rings at a time. Want them fully coated. Don't mind me, I have to open a new box of parchment paper. Good enough. I'll use the cheap stuff. So we're going to make sure the onion ring is completely coated in the batter. We're going to make sure that any excess drips back into the bowl. And this goes onto a baking sheet where I'm going to let them hang out and then repeat this process a whole bunch of times. Now, I will show you something that's kind of interesting. There was too much left over here. I'll show you what happened. There was way too much left there. I'm going to scrape that up and dump it back in the bowl. You can load up this sheet, put it in your freezer. It'll freeze hard pretty quickly. And then you can bag this, and you can fry them straight from frozen, and they work beautifully. So you can prepare these in advance. Just scraping off the excess from the parchment paper. So again, we want the batter to coat the onion rings. And we're just going to hold them up and let them... You should be a little gentle with the onion rings. You shouldn't hear them crunching when you're grabbing them. If they're crunching, you're probably being a little too aggressive with the onion rings. So we don't want to break them. I have a total earworm of a song stuck in my head, and it's driving me kind of mental. Fortunately, I think it's kind of a good song for something super poppy. If anyone can guess what it is, other than DJ Nuvo if she's watching, I'll send you a prize. Nah, that's for me to know and you to guess. Oh, speaking of prizes, I think because these things were such a smash hit, I think I'm going to make a couple of dozen of these for prizes for next year as well. These are my bottles of vanilla extract. This is, without a doubt, with no exaggeration, the best vanilla extract I've ever had in my life. No, it's not Rick Astley. There's 2 ingredients, vodka and vanilla. So there's 2 whole vanilla beans in here, and the really nice thing is, as I use the vanilla extract, at the end of the day I top it up with vodka, and within a couple of days my bottle is magically full, ready to go again. And I should be able to get something between 36 and 40 ounces of extract out of this. So not only is it super premium vanilla extract, but it is there's a lot in here. there's a lot of vanilla extract in there. So last year I think I mailed out, it was something like 9 or 10. I gave away 9 or 10 as prizes to viewers. Just for channel redemption points, I have a separate point scheme on my channel, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to reset it, and everyone is going to use all their points, and I'm going to round everyone up to at least 1 draw. And yeah, the more points people had, the more draws they got, and one lucky couple got 2. Also, huge supporters of my channel. Kind of happy they got 2. One was an amazing re-gift for Christmas, and away it goes. When you look at some place like A&W, which I have a lifelong boycott against, for no reason other than the local store kind of pissed me off. They made an error on my bill. I called the store and said, hey, I think you made an error on my bill. And the store's like a block away. And the person insisted that they didn't. I said, well, I've got the receipt here, and I reran the numbers, and I'm pretty sure that there was a mistake, and it was like $1 or $2. Nope, it's not Roy Orbison crying from the onions. It's not related to food at all. Yeah, so I spoke with the manager, who really didn't care, and I said, I'm going to do you a favor here. I'm going to be really candid. I have no problem boycotting your store and all A&Ws for the rest of my life. I've been far more petty with more places for far more trivial reasons. And as it is, I give your location. I'm kind of a regular. I'm in there at least once a week. So I'm giving you an opportunity to correct this and keep a customer. Or if you don't want to, fix this, that's fine too. So the guy pretty much told me off. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I have not been back since. And the downside is their burgers are tasty. I think that A&W has their onion rings are great. Their burgers are good. I have one of my favorite fast food joints to go visit. I saw the word joke and I kind of slipped. But just on the principle, I said no. Yeah, let's leave the country stuff out of the conversation, please. I completely understand where that train of thought comes from. Cooking show is not the place for discussing it. we have a question. Yeah, Desmodus, that's a good call, but oh, God, almost literally the opposite. But when I did my hip hop and rap night a couple of weeks ago, that was really high on the list, and just because of the current climate, yeah, that's a good joke though. Thanks. I didn't want to play it, and kudos to everyone that tuned in for my stream. Not a single person complained about the lyrics or the content or the subject matter, and I was really clear at the start. This stuff is from the 80s. It was a different time. The music's being presented in its original format, unedited, unfiltered, uncensored. If this is going to be problematic, tune in for the cooking stream. Oh, there was a message sent to me about a rather, how to put this, politically charged song from an old hip-hop group from the 80s. Like, I'd be happy to play like Professor Griff or like Dr. Dre stuff for hours on end. And I'm not a huge hip-hop guy, but I really, really enjoyed the rap back then. And then there was message and everything else, but wow. I got to be somewhat neutral here, right? But yeah, like kudos to the viewers. Nobody got their panties up in a bunch about it. And even though there were a whole lot of N-words dropped, nobody complained, which was also really good. But otherwise, I prefer to leave the politics and subjects like religion. Sports is another religion. Android versus iOS is another religion. We're here for the food and, you know, usually music. Just going to check the temperature on the oil. Okay, so my stick thermometer is not the right thing to use. My infrared is, oh, that's rather warm. Okay, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I'm measuring 400. Yeah. I have very, very mixed feelings on that word. Okay, so we have the onion rings. We have our flaky mixture here. So I'm going to take these, toss them in this, and then I'm going to fry them being the onion rings. If I had a bowl that was big enough, I'd be able to flip this without making a mess. But this is fine. If I need more panko flakes, I can just grind some more up. Going to get these on a plate right here. By plate I mean paper towel, for no reason other than it's the closest thing. That was a dry surface. I should be flipping these with tongs just so I don't get my hands all dirty. If you get clumps of batter in with your panko flakes, you can just run the panko flakes in your food processor just to break things up. And that's our pro kitchen hack for the day. Now I let the oil heat up a little bit too much, ironically And check to see if there's more descriptions. Hopefully this is on screen enough. No, this might actually be enough panko flakes for all of this. Normally when I do a batch of the onion rings, I'll just do two segments. What, Canadian? Yeah, you can say Canadian. I'll also accept Canuck. But yeah, A&W onion rings, they used to be phenomenal. I kind of miss them, although I mean I couldn't eat them now anyways because of the keto, but they did make a good product. And I'm not going to ask or encourage anyone to boycott A&W just because I had a bad experience. I mean, obviously not because I'm praising how good their onion rings were, right? And probably still are. So there's a couple of clumps in here of the batter. I'm going to fix that in just a second. Thanks, Maiden. Okay, my oil is stupidly hot. I'm surprised it's as stupidly hot as it is. It's in the 400 range. I need to let it cool down a little bit, ironically enough. So while that's happening, I'm going to get a little more panko flake just to finish off these onion rings. When I go to fry these, I'm just going to do 3 or 4 onion rings at a time. I don't want the onion rings to touch. I don't want the batter to be getting stuck, gluing them together. It's going to be done in quick batches, and they're only going to need to cook for about 5 or 6 minutes. I need an adult too. I throw a little panko in there. I'm going to throw in another half teaspoon of the old official Vlahos seasoning. Going to mute this for just a few seconds. And really what I should do is what I described earlier and take my battered panko flakes and run this into the juicer shredder thingy, a food processor. Just wanted to tilt the camera back so you could see what was going on over here. So I used to have clumps of batter. A little breading pan. And just running it through the food processor very quickly fixes everything. Well, everything relevant for today anyways. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Once these are fully breaded, I can pick them up and I'm not going to get gunk all over my fingers. So we're almost ready to get into the deep frying magic. I'm going to have to get my test victim ready to start tasting food. If anybody wants to be a member of the studio audience, if you're ever in the Winnipeg area, Winnipeg, Canada that is, I don't know that there's another Winnipeg in the world. Is there? Can somebody Google that for me, please? I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, that looks about right. And again, I could have taken all of the onion rings and left them after I breaded them the second time. Sorry, after I breaded them, after I dredged them in the batter. I could have taken that pan straight into the freezer and froze these up. And then after half an hour, transfer all these frozen onion rings into a bag. And then whenever I want, I could take my bag of frozen onion rings, heat up some oil, and make some magic happen. Okay, that's still kind of hot, but I'm going to rotate the camera over. So just so we don't get any seizure-inducing camera shaking. And it's back. Okay, so these things, being onion rings, I don't want them touching. Ne touche pas. And the oil is actually a little hot, and we're going to do some ASMR here. As soon as they start to turn brown at all, I want to flip them over. If I had a pair of metal tongs, I'd be a lot happier. The initial placement of the onion rings into the boiling oil, any water that's left, any moisture, is likely going to bubble up, and that's not what we want. So, that's it. Nice and quick, just a couple of minutes. That's all it takes. And you can see this onion ring here, there's very little oil coming off of it. This one, there is from the slotted spoon, same with this. But this onion ring, there's very little oil coming out. So it's going to sizzle up because of the liquid. I don't want these things to be touching. I don't want the batter to be cracked. I want these to be separate. As soon as they start changing color to like a light golden brown, I want to flip them over. I'll finish cooking them. Put them off on a paper towel to dry a little bit, and we're good. Just a couple of minutes, that's all it takes. Batch. It's fairly safe to gently place, I should say, drop or throw onion rings. Actually, anything into frying oil, as long as you're laying it away from yourself. So if I have the oil and I'm taking my thing and I'm placing it so that I'm pushing the oil in that direction, if there's any splatter, it's going away from me, not towards me. This is a fantastic use for a cast iron pan. Bon oui, I'm learning English. Thanks for tuning in. If you can post that recipe for the those brownies on my Discord, I'd really appreciate it. That would be wicked awesome. Thank you. So these are starting to turn brown. I'm going to flip them over. Hopefully there's still enough batter on them. But we already have one minor victim. Onion ring down. Thank you. Yeah, you don't want to be placing things and dropping them towards you. You want to lay them away from you. And your hand really shouldn't ever be at risk of getting oil splattering onto it. So you're just gently laying it down. The last little bit can drop, as long as you're doing it in a controlled way. Like if you're throwing it in like a rock, you're going to get oil splattering everywhere, and that's not safe. But if you're just gently laying it down into place, you're fine. speaking of playing safe, thank you again to my unnamed benefactor who, if they want to be named, feel free to chime in into the chat, take total credit for it. Somebody very, very, very generously covered the cost for not one, not two, but 3 fire extinguishers. One I still need to mount on the wall, the other 2 are still arriving. I guess that means I get to do my flambe episode soon. See, I have 6 onion rings left to do. I could put them all in here at the same time. Yeah, Maiden, it was very generous and it's very, very appreciated. A few times this year, I'm going to break the rules and go kind of nuts with technique and presentation, and that's very likely going to involve airbrush, decorate some cakes. I'm gonna, yeah, I think I'm going to have like 1 week or a few weeks of showing off, doing all the stupid techniques that you're just never, very likely, never going to do at home. I'll happily describe it in detail. But, yeah, like doing real artwork on a cake, making croissants from scratch. What else is cool? I'm having a hard time thinking of something that's tricky to make that requires a whole lot of skill. Oh yeah, I can do like a full week of gastro science stuff. Yes, cake from scratch, not from a tube. Soufflés are easy. I think I did one on the stream. But I mean, I can take agar and do like weird gastro science. I can like smoke infuse things. I can cook with dry ice. Oh, making croissants from scratch. It's just super time consuming. It's actually super easy to do. It's just really time consuming. Also in a few weeks I'm going to do another round of baklava. I still have a few packs of phyllo dough in the freezer. And that's something else that I might want to do on Shock Stream on my LiveTube instead of online, because I did baklava palooza a few months ago. It must have been a few months ago because I was not currently keto at the time, and I had some lilikoi jelly that was sent to me from one of my dear friend viewers from Hawaii, and I was all inspired to do a ground pistachio and lilikoi baklava, like a Hawaiian themed one, and it was awesome. And that one was totally done on the fly, which just goes to show how simple all this stuff is to make. Oh, spanakopita, yeah. It's super easy to do. Super easy to do. Spanakopita, tiropita, baklava. It's other than the filling, it's super easy to do. The next time I do a stream with phyllo dough, I can do a tiropita, which is literally a cheese pita, spanakopita, and maybe a baklava all the same day. Like I can do 3. It's all on the, I think I have recipes on the blog, on the Daily Bear. The best topping for, you know what? I think I have I think I have a dipping sauce recipe for this. You can have these plain. They're already seasoned. Like there's going to be flavor from the batter. There's flavor from the Cajun / Creole seasoning. Some sort of a spicy mayo is usually the way to go, I think. I mean, you can dip it in ketchup, but I have, I think, a recipe on the blog for like yogurt mayo, and then some hot stuff. Horseradish might be in there, some mustard. I think that's the recipe I posted. You know what, we're going to find out in just a couple of minutes. Spanakopita is spinach pie. It's a lot tastier than it sounds, and when it's done right, there's a bunch of chunks of feta in there. And the recipe itself, I can't stress this enough, how unbelievably easy it is to make. And people think that it's super tough and it's very time consuming, and it isn't. It really, really isn't. The vast majority of all Greek cuisine is super easy to make. It's just good, clean, natural ingredients. A little bit of prep for some of it. The cooking itself requires no technique. So these outsides are cooked. Let this boil for just a minute. I'm going to go see if my test victim is ready. Okay, I need to, I've turned off the element. I need to take a picture of these onion rings. So I think there's a kind of sassy. As sassy as onion rings get. Oh, nose. Oh, sorry, the dipping sauce was for the chicken tendies. And that one is mayo, 2 parts mayo to 1 part sour cream. And then some horseradish, some mustard, dash of Worcestershire. Or you can go the hot sauce route and have like your mayo sour cream and some Frank's Red Hot, or some Tabasco, or some sriracha, or even some chili oil, or you can doctor it up yourself. You can make something more like Italian seasoning, I mean Greek seasoning-y. You can throw some of this into your mayo sour cream and garlic. You can make something more like a ranch dipping sauce. Sky's the limit. It really is the limit. I'm going to disable the camera for just a minute while I rotate it back. Okay, so here we have a plate of onion rings. Just to demonstrate how little oil is left. I mean, there's still going to be some, of course, but much from the top, bottom. You can see there's just a little bit of oil on the paper towel, just a few drops. And now, as much as I hate to do this, lose my keto card? We're going to ASMR this. Are we ready? Ready? Let's hear how crunchy this is. Are we ready? Do we dare? Do we dare? Here we go. That was with my mouth closed, because I do not ever chew with my mouth open. Pretty damn crunchy sounding, right? Now, personally, I would put a little more salt in this because I'm a saltaholic. These, I think, do need a bit of a dipping sauce. But the crunch, that's good stuff. Okay. And just to belabor the point, ooh, another good word, belabor. Just to beat this poor point to death, did I do anything today that looked remotely difficult other than playing with some boiling oil in a cast iron pan? I cut up an onion. I was fairly careful when I took it apart. I peeled out some gross stuff that I didn't want. I grabbed a box of basically crackers. I have some spices that I mixed up with a whisk. Thanks, maiden. But really, there's nothing to doing any of this. And I go out of my way to pick recipes that are a little more accessible. No one's going to complain if you make this. No one's going to complain. And as soon as the color starts changing a little bit in the pan, just flip it over, let it cook for another 1 or 2 minutes till it looks this kind of goldenish brown, and that's it. That's all there is to these onion rings. So I'm going to leave this on a plate. You can hear the crunch. Yeah, it's not bad. I know, right? I'm going to put this off to the side. We'll get on to the attendees. I will post. I will either post or I'll do the exact same food tomorrow, but the keto version. I think I'll do that instead. Because I really want to eat this. Yeah, I actually had a bite of stuff with carbs in it. It's not good for me. I'm going to keto hell now. When a restaurant charges exactly. Oh no, Kriana, don't. No. I veto that. I 100% veto that. I'll tell you why. I can give you the wicked awesome, very anecdotal sales pitch for why keto is the best thing ever. But unless you're completely sold on it, unless you can make it your permanent lifestyle with no cheat days, unless you're committed to the plan, you're setting yourself up for a bad time. A lot of people, banana balls, welcome. A lot of people look at the crazy awesome results on the internets and say, oh my God, you can lose 50 pounds in a month doing keto. Yeah, some people have done that. Some people can run a 3-minute mile. Some. It's very anecdotal. Even the claims about, losing 10 pounds in your first week. Well, half of that's water, at least. And if you're 150 pounds overweight and you're going from 3,000, 3,500 calories down to 1,000 calories, the math says you're going to lose 5 pounds in the week. Yeah, the minimum is going to be 5 pounds of water, and that's because each gram of glycogen in your muscle and your liver, and I guess your spine, some parts of it, each gram of glycogen holds on to 3 to 4 grams of water. So when you deplete your body of those glycogen stores, the water that was being held onto by that glycogen also gets flushed down the toilet. That's where that 5 pounds of water weight comes from. It's straight up pure science. The math checks out. Bigger people will lose a little more. Bigger people also have a higher base metabolic rate. So when they go from 4,000 calories a day down to 1,000 to 1,500, like most people do when they jump into a diet, they approximately 3,500 calories is a pound of fat, give or take. So when you're cutting down 2,500 calories a day, that's 5/7 of a pound per day. After 7 days, 5/7 times 7 is like 35/7, which is, conveniently works out to exactly 5 pounds of fat. Banana balls, that's awesome. Personally, I think people should be looking to lose about 2 pounds a week after their initial water loss. That's 8 pounds a month. That's 100 pounds in a year. If you're 150 pounds overweight, 18 months ain't that far away. And after 1 year, you're a completely different person. All fantastic reasons to do keto. It works really well. You can change a lot of your habits. You can change out of feeling sluggish from the carbs. Your brain works better. It gets rid of inflammation. It'll help deal with arthritis. It'll reverse in a lot of people type 2 diabetes, or if they're diabetic, it will fix that. It can also help fix other issues like gout or thyroidism. But all that sounds fantastic. But you become a social pariah, not piranha, pariah. Also a good word for words on stream. You can't have cheat days. It just doesn't work. When you go out with your friends and they want to order drinks, you have to be very restricted for what you're drinking. And do you want to be that person that ruins everyone's fun? Do you want to be the outcast? Do you want to make people feel guilty for ordering something that they want to enjoy? Because I've been there. My friends hate Exactly Maiden, exactly. My friends hate it because I'll go out and I'm happy having a glass of water, or I might have like a shot of hard stuff once in a while, and that's all I'll have. And I'm fine with not eating. I've done extended fasts. You can go for days on end without eating and you really don't get hungry. It's kind of miraculous. But banana balls, the occasional indulgence, it's not going to kill you. It delays your habits, but it's less than ideal, but we're human and we're going to slip up now and then. To really stick to the plan, you should avoid the cheat days. I'm never going to judge anyone or criticize somebody if they really, really, really want something and it's going to help keep them on track. It's just like the junkie, right? I'm never going to encourage somebody to stick something in their arm, but I'm okay with turning a blind eye as long as I know they're doing it in a controlled way and they really know what they're doing and they are really only going to do it like once, rarely. I don't like it. It's not my place to judge. I kind of feel the same way about it. Yeah, Kriana, I know, exactly. Like, you lose your alcoholic friends. Conveniently, it was all pre-pandemic, and then people kind of just didn't invite me out for food, which is fine. And then the pandemic hit, and nobody went out for food, so I really didn't notice. I have the extreme luxury, and I will never take this for granted, but I work 25 feet away from my kitchen. I have complete control over what I eat. Yeah, and one beer's not the end of the world. It really isn't. And staying under 20 net grams, depending on your activity for the day, there's a lot of ways around it. There are a lot of ways around it. Yeah, Dr. Heather, the protein was a problem for me too, because I went from a high protein, like post-surgery recovery, from a very high protein to trying keto. And after a month, the results were great, but in there I had to work out a way to get more fat and less protein in my diet. And that's when I discovered that cheesecake is a health food, and so is chocolate. And then the weight just fell off. True story. I put on a bunch of weight in the last year and a half because of some medication I was on, which I'm no longer on, so it should start coming off again fairly soon. I'm pretty sure my metabolism is mostly back up to normal. And I keep promising this. I finally got my full medical file from my doctor, who retired, that bastard. So I can post all of my blood work, all of my everything during my keto journey. And that's something I've been kind of promising for a while. It's going to go on the blog one of these days. Scout's Honor. Oh, it was never a Scout, but Scout's Honor, it's going to happen. So yeah, keto sounds fantastic. It's a real pain in the ass. And again, unless you're completely sold on doing it, you're setting yourself up for a bad time. If you're looking for recipes, if you're looking for the biochemistry, if you're wondering how glucagon and insulin work against each other and how the pancreas releases things and how autophagy works and all the other sciencey stuff, I'm not going to claim to know all about it, but it sure sounds like I know all about it. I get all the science behind it. It depends where you're coming from. Like for me, I was very high protein and lowish carb anyways. So I don't know everything. But I'm pretty obsessive when it comes to doing my research. And I have a really, really, really wide breadth of knowledge. Like I've got 3 science degrees. I was provincial coach for rowing. I used to be in the rowing club. I used to be in phenomenal shape. I used to do triathlons before my accident. People still consult me for math research, and there's a couple of doctors that consult me for nutrition, just because they don't study it and they know that their education is very, very lacking, and what they learned in school is garbage. I don't know everything. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. But I appreciate the vote of confidence. I rarely advertise the stuff that I don't know. There's a difference there. Oh, Dr. Heather, that's cool. That's really cool. I'm kind of wondering, and I've been wondering this a while, do we need more lifestyle coaches or health coaches or fitness coaches? Like what's the primary coaching that the average couch potato needs? What gets them the most bang for their buck, getting them started on the road to taking control of their own health? It's a serious question. I really don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure it depends on the person. Yeah, Kriana, for women premenopause, you really should cycle off every 3-ish months. And for guys, we tend to thrive on keto, especially younger guys, unlike myself, because I'm not a spring chicken anymore, being something over 40s, something maybe into 50s. Yeah, it's the gray in the beard. It gives me away. Oh, speaking of which, I will be shaving this off on stream at some point in the next month or 2. No, I haven't been 24 since you were 24. Let's get on to the chicken tenders, shall we? Is this the right knife? No. But it almost is. For me, for the people that ask me, because I'm involved in a lot of keto groups on Facebook, and typically once every week or two, somebody will reach out and say, "Hey, I hope you don't mind. You seem to really know your stuff, and I'm getting all sorts of bad information. Can you give me a hand with this?" And of course, I help. And there's just so much bad information out there. But the one common thing that I see time and time again is people haven't done the internal cost-benefit analysis, and here's the accountant in me coming out. If you're sold on keto being the right thing for you, and you really believe it, not you accept that it's probably the right thing to do, not you need to reverse your pre-diabetic condition, not you need to lose weight, because everyone knows these things. People know that smoking isn't good for you. But when you really, really internalize, when you fully accept that you have to change and you want to change and you understand everything about the change and what's required and you're fully committed to the plan, I'll tell you everything you need to know to be successful. But until somebody gets to that point, they're beating their head against a wall and they're setting themselves up for disaster. And I don't want to tell people don't do it because you're going to fail. I'm telling people don't do it because unless you're sold on doing it, you're going to have a bad time. And I'd rather encourage people to find a different road to health and that they can be successful at and have like a moderate lifestyle and still go drinking and still have pizza and ice cream once in a while instead of the very restrictive keto thing. But I frequently see people posting, oh my God, I have to have this treat or I'm literally going to die. Is it okay if I cheat? I think these people will literally ask for permission. And I hate those questions because we're adults, right, in theory. And if you're going to have a cheat day and you know what's coming up and you know what the consequences are and you know that you're delaying your progress, but you really want to have it for whatever reason, go do it. I'm not going to judge. But don't complain later that it doesn't work because you didn't do it right. Yeah, but do we really need to have our own handlers, or can we just say, I'm 50 pounds overweight because I had bad lifestyle for a couple of decades. I need to fix my lifestyle and hopefully lose that over the next couple of years. It's a heck of a trade-off, right? Part of me is still, philosophically, I'm still not sure if there is such a thing as willpower, or if it's just you've come to the conclusion of your cost-benefit analysis. Again, very anecdotally, for me, when I dropped all the carbs, my arthritic pain went away. So for me, it was a no-brainer. For me, 3 years of zero cheats, zero anything, I could count on mostly two hands the number of individual berries that I'd eaten over 3 years. I was really, really strict about no fruit, or like truly minimal fruit. I have a lot of arthritis issues from some really nasty car accidents, and waking up in a heck of a lot less pain versus having a delicious slice of pizza is a no-brainer. Pain is a truly terrific motivator. So, I mean, maybe I'm one of the lucky ones where I can look at a Krispy Kreme donut and go, yeah, I'm sure it's delicious. I know based on the weather I won't move tomorrow because of the pain. It's a no-brainer for me. For the average person who's relatively healthy, that cost-benefit analysis is very, very different. It's very different. Chicken tendies. I want consistent, thin strips that are about half an inch thick, give or take. Buying the strips pre-cut is good. There's the actual tendy. Yeah, Desmodus, so I'm going to disagree with you on that because fried sugar is delicious. But I do have a keto Krispy Kreme donut that tastes like the real thing. One of many miraculous recipes on my blog. I think a few people that are on the stream right now were... You know, we don't have Krispy Kreme up here. The only time I ever had Krispy Kreme was in Minneapolis. Yeah, Maiden, I have a bunch of donut recipes for keto. And they really do taste like real donuts. Real donuts. What was the really cool one? Oh yeah, last week on my stream, I made raspberry jam. 2 net grams of carbs per cup. You heard that right. 2 net grams of carbs per cup of raspberry jam. Yeah, tastes like real raspberry jam. Looks like raspberry jam. I used it as a layer in a cake. I know, chia. It was crazy. It was crazy awesome. Okay, so it's a little jelly, but it was good. I liked it. And I have been promising a keto pasta sheet recipe. I still don't have the ingredients. I'm going to need to just overnight them from Amazon this week so I can do it for next week. So this thing, what I don't want to do, there's a few ways to cut this. One is I can just press down and cut horizontally into strips that are this thick. Or I can pound this flat. I can lay it between 2 pieces of cling wrap, pound it flat so it is consistent thickness. Pounding it flat is the safer way to go. But since I know how to use a knife, I'm going to take the quasi shortcut. Unless you want me to pound it flat. Diabetes intensifies. Again, get a knife, properly maintained, nice and sharp. Brought me diabetes. That's great. Yeah, that's going to be 2 big tendies. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm sorry about the soapbox about the keto. It's just based on, and I know that the people in the chat are a lot more. I hope nobody gets triggered by this, but you guys are a lot more adult and a lot more mature than the typical person that I deal with on social media. Take that as a compliment, please. But just dropping a bit of harsh reality, a bit of harsh reality, you know, the occasional truth bomb, as the cool kids call it. Like I don't get any pleasure from telling people what you're doing is destructive, and no, you don't have my permission, and you don't need to ask me my permission to do something destructive. Like, you know what the answer is. Don't ask strangers to tell you it's okay to indulge in bad habits. You already know the answer. If you want to know how to deal with it or how to minimize it, that's a completely different question. Yeah, Dr. Heather, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I think they don't want to give it up because they're not sold on the benefits. Just like the smoker who keeps smoking, even though they know statistically it's probably going to kill them. They don't smell any better for smoking. It doesn't make them look cooler. I mean, it used to, but it doesn't anymore. So why do they still smoke? Yes, addiction is one part of it, but I think the real motivation, the real driver to stop smoking is when people internalize there's better things for me to do. And that's it. My take could be completely wrong, but I'm kind of leaning towards this whole concept of willpower is I don't think it exists. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'll fight you, but I could be wrong. It's rather large chicken tendy, and this one is going to get cut along here. Kriana, I read up on it for a full year before I did it. And yeah, Wade, you're totally right on that. When people invite me out and the first thing they ask me is, are you still doing that keto thing? I'm like, you know, whatever I decide to eat is my business, and if me not eating what you're eating is causing you some distress, then we shouldn't go to a restaurant together and we can find other activities. But in North America, let's count on one hand how many activities people do socially that doesn't involve food or drink. So there's the fun, naughty one. And other than that, I think everything involves food or drink. So for me, it was, I'd done a lot of research for the year, and I decided I'm going to do keto for, like, hardcore for 1 month, just to see what it's like. And I wasn't doing it for any of the benefits. I just wanted to see what it was like for me, because I was really close to doing it already. And my surgeon told me I was eating too much protein and I need to back off. So I was already low carb. I was told back off on the protein. So what's low carb and low protein? Keto. So I mean, I was already about to do it anyways. And that's where I got started. It was all complete serendipity, even though I'd been reading up on it. Yeah, high fat. It was actually tough for me to get my fat content up, and that's where fat bombs and cheesecake really helped. Okay, so here I have my chicken tendies, all approximately the same thickness, like 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick. These are going to be fried in that same oil, which is nice and dirty. I mean, extra flavorful. Once they're breaded, they're going to cook for long enough to hit an internal temperature of 165. Chicken, you should always bring up to 165 Fahrenheit at the thickest part. So in the oil that we're going to be cooking at, what's the temperature on this? Close to 400, right? Yeah, 375 for, depending on the thickness, 6 to 9 minutes. So I'm going to get a couple of bowls to dredge this in. I'm going to wash my hands first because they're covered in raw chicken. Yeah, I'm super happy that I didn't try to rush to make restaurant-style French fries where you boil them twice. In one bowl, I need 2 eggs and a little bit of water. And you know what 2 eggs means, right? That means I'm going to have a disaster with at least one of these eggs, because it always happens. Oh, and before I forget, here's my farm fresh eggs. I love the blue ones. I finally got an order of farm fresh eggs in. The good ones, I've not had this supplier for a while. Super happy. And yes, there's a lot of restaurants that are happy to make keto or gluten-free, low-carb stuff and accommodations, which is really nice. A few of my friends own restaurants or they're managers at hotels with restaurants. And everyone is very, very, very still very curious about incorporating chaffles onto their main menu because they're really cheap to make. Okay, we have a bowl here. To do this properly, I should have an extra bowl over which to crack my eggs. So far, so good. No surprises. Interesting. Well, we can't have that, can we? So what happens if it turns out that we have a couple of eggshells that somehow found their way into our eggs? And let's say those eggshells aren't on top, but they're like swirled in here. Now, my friends, is it the time to freak out? I'm freaking out. Nah, I'm freaking out. Nah, I'm freaking out in reverse. Ooh, I like that. I need to get that. What channel is that from? Spooky 2. That's awesome. Okay, so people on the stream have probably seen this before. I can use this eggshell cup, Nature's Own eggshell scooper upper. Magically cuts through the egg white. Magically lets me scoop up the eggshell. Let's see that again. Let's separate these two so I don't get all three at the same time. I don't get the hat trick. Sometimes you need to just push the eggshell along the side, but the eggshell cup itself will cut through the egg white. So I have one piece hiding underneath this egg yolk, which I can just push out of the way with the eggshell and just very slowly scoop it up. Easy peasy. Mind blown kitchen hack. I need 2 tablespoons of water in with the eggs. I don't have any fancy artisanal water. I'm just using plain old tap water. Don't really care about the pH. I'm going to quickly whisk this up. I could use a whisk, I'm going to use a fork. I want this to be fairly well incorporated. I don't want any big chunks of white like we have over here on the top. I'm not trying to whip it up. I'm not trying to make a nice frothy omelet. I just want a smooth mixture of eggs and a little bit of water. Good enough. You go off to the side. I need one bowl with some flour. Approximately 1 cup of flour, which I'll source from over here. Oh my gosh. Almost out of my bag of flour. Yikes. The third dredge is the interesting part. Here's where we have, I need a couple of cups of seasoned breadcrumbs or ground panko flakes and a bit of spice. So I'm going to break this out. I'm going to once more set up the food processor or Tron. And avoid getting this cable into the raw chicken. There we go. There it is. That's 8, so we need to do about 1/3 of this. do 1 cup. Don't do what I just did. Do not measure things on top of your cooking vessel container, because if I spill the panko flakes, I'm gonna have to dig some out and remeasure it. So don't do what I just did. I seem to say that a lot. And then I'm gonna need about a teaspoon of this. You can use cayenne and regular pepper. You can use some of this Creole mix. Anything kind of spicy, anything with a little bit of kick and some salt to it is good. I'm going to mute the camera for just a minute. Real Farina, thank you so much for the 2 water and fried eggs minimum. A bit of the spice got stuck in the bottom. I'm just going to give this another couple of pulses. And we're back. So this entire recipe is basically done. It's basically done. We have our 3 battering stations. So we have our flour, we have our egg, we have our flaky exterior. If I really want, I can use some of this. If I need extra, I might. We'll find out. So the chicken over here, so I'll make sure you can see everything. Just going to get a little piece of parchment paper for the pan. I'm such a sucker for parchment paper. And yes, I firmly believe that it is a kitchen essential. Just wondering if I missed any questions. Everything good? Okay, sweet. So I need a separate bowl for each of these dredgy things. We need some paper towels to just dry the chicken tendies in case there's any extra liquid on them. These seem to be nice and dry. They're still going to be a touch moist, which is fine. That's going to pick up the flour, which is the first layer. And then we're going to dredge them through the egg wash. And that egg wash is going to stick to the flour, and then that egg wash is going to help the panko flakes stick. And all of that is going to get nice and crispy when we fry it. I'm going to turn the oil back on to 375 Fahrenheit. You can also bake these. I bake them at about 400. You take them straight from the very breaded state. I'd give them a little spritz of spray oil and put that spray oil side down on a baking sheet with some parchment paper, and they'll crisp up. So cook them at about 400 for 10-15 minutes, give give or take, until the internal temperature, once again, is 165 Fahrenheit. If anyone is following along with the recipe at home, I will fix all those typos. Normally my splolelling is a lot better. And if you get little stringy bits, I'll just throw them out. These chicken tendies need to be as close to perfect chunks of meat as possible. We don't want any sinew, we don't want any like connective tissue, we just want straight perfect slice of chicken cutlet. Like this one I really should trim up, and by should I mean I'm going to. Much better. This little strip here I need to rip out, or I might need to trim that entire piece. Yep, that needs to be trimmed. And now the chicken tendies are going to be more delicious. So we're not going to have a bad experience from a chunk getting chewy in our mouth. Thanks, Wade. Well, at least someone's paying attention at the home game, right? I mean, there's always a positive. There's always a positive. And if there isn't, just feign insanity and pretend there is. Now, we're going to do this in our 3 steps. Let's see if I can get all this on screen. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try really, really, really hard. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Okay. Flour. How are you spelling flour? With a W, what do you think? Come on. Flour, egg, don't do this with your offhand, do it with your dominant hand if you can. 1 breaded chicken tendy. Easy peasy. Once again into the fray. So you can press the chicken tender into the flour, give it a little shake. Again, just dip it into the egg. I'm probably going to have twice as much of the dipping stations as I need. These amounts are good for about 24 strips, and I'm only making like 8. As long as it crisps up, yes. That gluten-free flour will work. If you're doing keto, you can use, for the flour part, you can use almond flour or coconut, if you don't mind the taste. Egg is fine for keto. And then the Panko Flakes, you can do 1-to-1 aged cheddar, shredded, with pork rinds. Run that through your food processor. It's just like Panko Flakes. Some people like to just really push the flakes in. You can, don't have to. Easy peasy. The reason these chicken tenders look possibly better than yours when you do this at home is because you're not drying the flour. You're not drying the chicken breast with the paper towel before you get into the flour. You're not shoving the flour into the chicken. if the flour is sticking, the egg's going to stick to the flour. And if the egg sticks to the flour, these panko flakes are going to stick, or breadcrumbs, whatever you're doing, are going to stick to the chicken. Just a couple more to go. I hope that oil isn't getting too hot. I really should have cut these ingredients in half because I'm not going to use anywhere near 2 eggs. And I'm not going to use anywhere near this 1 cup of flour, but whatever. It's not like it's super expensive. Sort of crunch this down. I should take a quick thermometrizing of the oil. Okay, we're almost there. You know what? I hope So Deep's on. We're going to be on time today, as opposed to last week where I went like half an hour over. Again, floured. Egg sticks to the flour. Panko sticks to the egg. I should wash my hand because it's covered in stuff. Just going to give my hand a quick wash. Dried chicken into the flour, floured chicken into the egg. What came first? We all know it was the mutant chicken. Because nothing else really makes sense. If anyone at home is thinking there's no way that you can make your chicken tendies look like this, you're wrong. I'm just going to say it. What I'm doing here is very, very, very easy. If you prepare the ingredients with a little bit of care, again, it's not hard. You can make your chicken tendies look just like I'm about to show you, because I have 2 left. Okay, I actually need to use the rest of this, which is good. The trick is to have your chicken strips, squeeze them dry with paper towel. Make sure they're as dry as possible. There's still going to be a little bit of moisture left, which will let them become breaded like this. If you really want to be thorough, you can press the flour into the chicken tender. You don't have to beat it in, just give it a little tappy tap. Nice and floured into the egg mixture, which is just egg and water. can press this chicken into the mixture if you really want. Just to get a super even coat. And the last one is hiding in here. The last of the tendies. I am so not ambidextrous. Good Lord, that's terrible. Okay, I wash my hands and I want to take a picture of this tray of chicken tendies, and I'm going to show you what they look like. Oil is shimmering. Perfect. Okay. Terribly sorry, had a quasi-urgent message to reply to. Okay, are we ready to see what this looks like? Come on. Come on, how does that look? Almost like the store-bought stuff, right? Uh-huh, uh-huh. I'm gonna rotate the camera over. For anyone missing why, when I rotate the camera, I turn the camera off just because I don't want anyone to deal with the seizure shaky cam. I just don't like it. Thanks, Dr. Heather. That's sweet of you to say. Okay, 374. I'm looking for 375. Close enough. Just a couple at a time. These are going to fry, again, 6 to 9 minutes. We're going to do 3 batches, which is just enough time. So I make sure that these things are not getting stuck together with the batter. Get the old splatter screen in place. I'll be quiet for the sound. The tricky part about the stick thermometer is if I just dunk this into the tendies in the boiling oil, I'm probably going to get some of that oil heat registering. So I actually need to take it out and hope that it's close to being cooked. I think the screen is most useful at the start, especially when there is moisture. When there's any sort of water that's going to steam and pop, that's when we want the screen. After that, when things are just sizzling a little bit, it's mostly okay. I can feel the crispiness just from flipping it over. Like if you thought those onion rings were crispy, ain't got nothing on the chicken tendies. Nothing. It's like they're getting deep fried in toast. Wait a minute. Heck yeah, chicken crunchies. Cabbage is sorely underrated too. I really need to buy cabbage more often, and I should try to grow some this year. I just need to get a garden. Does anyone know what cabbage eats? I don't know how to feed my cabbage. Okay, I'm going to grab the thickest one. Also what she said. Put it on the plate. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Thickest part. I want this to be 165. 20, 30, 40, 50. Nowhere near 165. These are going to go back in the crunch-o-matic for a couple of minutes. I don't know what to do right now. I've got 2 more batches to fry up. I'm not sure if there's an interesting rant for me to go on. Any questions about stuff? Okay, let's check the temperature on this one. So 140, 150. 160. Yeah, these things need another 1 minute. I think the oil cooled down for some reason. I think it's just the enzyme that's particular to asparagus? You said smell, not taste, right? Okay, good. Okay, here we have a few more attendees. I hope you saw just me gently laying these down. You need to be respectful of boiling oil. It will burn you. But if you drop things in quickly and try to back away so you don't splash yourself, you will get burned. It's just the way it works. So I didn't drop them towards me, because if I did, then I'm pushing the oil this way, and I don't want that. I just gently laid it toward the back. Splatter screen, and there we go. Wait, there's no enzymes or anything? It's strictly sulfur? Yeah, I figured there'd be like some particular chemical in the asparagus. That's true for a lot of things, though, isn't it? Shame on everyone in the chat, not this guy. That sounds a little vigorous. Here. Sizzle does intensify. I'm a little surprised with the sizzling. Well, I'm going to flip these over though. Nice and slowly. 4 minutes on the clock. Let's see what happens. And since I don't have a test victim today, what do you mean almost? Come on. Again, I think the final batter, depending on your personal tastes, your preference, you might want to season the crap out of it, add twice as much. Or you can fix everything with some sort of a dipping sauce. Yeah, the crunch is strong with these recipes. And I'm already getting splatters of oil on the stove. At least there's very little on the back here, but along the side here, just a little bit splattering around is going to make a mess. Here's a big piece of chicken. I'm going to check the internal temperature right in the middle. Looking for 165. Flying up to 150, flying up to 160. Yep, these are done. And this is about the color you want anyways. Like a nice medium golden brown. Oh, speaking of glistening, there is one thing for checking your oil. Instead of throwing water in it to see if it splatters around, if you look at the oil from the side, you should be able to see some sort of a shimmer. Or you can bounce water across the top, make a bit of a mess and have some fun with it, but if you see the oil is shimmering, then it's ready. And the last piece of if anybody is ever in the Winnipeg area and you want to be a member of the studio audience, yeah, do it. Lots of room. Pop the handle of a wooden spoon in, or a chopstick, into the oil. That sounds dangerous. Oh, I could lower the chicken tendies with a slotted spoon or like a metal basket or tongs. Those are safer than doing it by hand, but just demonstrating doing it by hand, if you do it slowly, it's not going to splash back. Oh, test to see if it bubbles and it's ready. Okay. I just have an aversion to putting wooden or like non-metal things into boiling oil. I don't know why. Well, Philly, sometime this summer, when I hope to have my OnlyFans monetized, I'll do it shirtless. I might do that for channel redemption points. Who knows? I'm crazy like that. But I would need to get a kiddie pool in here of some sort and a microphone with some earlobes on it. Maybe give Amaranth a call to do a guest appearance. Save those channel points. Save all the channel points. I'd want to wear an apron of some sort just to deal with the hazards of things splashing and boiling and oil and the butters. Yeah. It could happen. It could happen. Okay, these are nice and toasty golden brown on one side. Flipping them over. I'm gonna see how these. You flip over. Dang you. Again, treat boiling oil with the respect it deserves. Don't just flip things over and cause a splash. Do it slowly. Metal tongs, the way to go. If you're stuck with a slotted spoon, do it very slowly. Pick it up and use the side and slowly let it just roll back into the pan. If you really need to, you can do something like this. Pick it up, using 2 fingers, 2 hands, gently lower it back down. Exactly. Treat a dinner first. If you just go straight for the goal, you're gonna get. It's gonna fight back, and no one's gonna be having a good time that night. Okay, that's been in for 5 minutes. It might be a little early. The oil's kind of hot. We're just gonna check this for Sweet Tea. Welcome. $140, $150, getting pretty high up to $160. I think these need about another minute, and then they're good. For everyone that's in Winnipeg, has the volume off, and has been invited over, I don't know, 100 times. I made extra, so if Sweet Tea wants to come down for supper, I got extras. I'm literally 1 bus ride away. My building is literally next to the rapid transit stop. Yeah, Philly, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm resting these on paper towel. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's exactly what I'm doing. If these are cooking at the right temperature, like there's going to be oil on this no matter what, but if they're fried at the right temperature, it's going to be a lot less greasy. I shouldn't end on an up lilt there. If you fry things at the right temperature, they become less greasy, period. Here we go, ready. It's going to tilt the camera down just for 1 second. Okay, so you can see there's a fair bit of oil that's still coming out. Just going to go to the bottom layer here. But this piece is not particularly greasy. I mean, I could pat it down a bit more, but it's still crunchy. So for dipping sauce, really what I would recommend is any sort of a mayo or sour cream as a base, and then whatever herbs you want to put in it. Like personally, I have the recipe on like a pretty standard dipping sauce, but something like sriracha or more of this Creole garlic powder. You can do something like a ranch dip. Really anything along those lines is good. Personally, I think these need a little more seasoning. They do need a little more salt. So a good spicy dip would be the perfect accompaniment for this. If you have little ones, having the slightly more bland chicken tendies, it's a safe bet, because you can always add more seasoning, salt and pepper and dippy or whatever, but it's really hard to remove it without scraping the exterior off, and there's always something weird and off-putting about removing the extra flavor and the crunch and that cool texture. If you have a picky eater in the area, just make a batch with less spicy breading, and then load yours up, or have some dips. That's just my recommendation. Again, if anyone's ever in the Winnipeg area, come on down. And I think I will know by the end of the summer if California in January is still an option. I hope it is this year, because I really want to get out to Cali, because I've never been, and I really want to do a road trip. And I know that Brian from 80s Dance Party really wants to do a road trip and have me be his on-site road tech, roadie, sound tech / mod, which I'm not going to do, but I might go for the road trip. But I'm not hauling his gear around. I've done that more than enough times. Anyone that's ever been a gigging musician knows what I'm talking about. I'm just not doing it anymore. I refuse to. I will work for free. If I'm performing, I will perform for free if it means I don't have to move my gear around. I will pay someone everything that I earn to haul gear around. I'm just not doing it anymore. I paid my dues. Okay, I think we're good. You know what's crazy is we're right on time. It's 7 o'clock. We've been on for 3 hours. Sudeep, if you're ready to go, let me know. And I will pass the controls over to you. Perfect. Anytime, Kriana, anytime. So once again, nothing I did required any real skill. Super simple recipe, basic ingredients, no fancy techniques, no gadgets, wicked awesome food. Can't go wrong. Thank you, Shock, for putting this all together. And thank you, Sudeep, for playing some wicked cuts, which I'm sure you're about to. And yeah, Philly, normally we have music playing in the background. Shock's given me a lot of his music to play. For the last couple of streams, I've had the music off. Because my OBS is kind of weird. I don't know why. It worked great for the first 5 or 6 streams. But I'm off. Sudeep's going to take over the entertainment. If anyone ever has any questions, hit me up on my Discord. Always happy to hang out, chat. And if you make this stuff, I would absolutely love it if you would post your pictures of what you made on the Discord. I'm gone. Thanks again. Love you guys. Opa.